What are the best settings in Valorant? How can I gain competitive advantage over other players? Which keybinds will allow me to have better movement? How to boost FPS and make enemies more visible? How to improve directional sound and enemies' footsteps? Should I use HRTF audio settings? Is toggle better than hold in Valorant? I'm gonna give you an answer to all of these questions, and today we're doing the best settings guide for Valorant 2025 edition, presented by your favorite all-time Radiant coach, Charlatano Papito. Why should you listen to me? Well, I quite literally wasted my life playing video games, especially Valorant. We've coached 4,500 players since closed beta. Join my Discord server for coaching. And yeah, I reached Radiant in every episode, so make sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, join my daily Twitch streams, TikTok streams, YouTube streams. I don't know, I'm streaming everywhere these days. And without any further ado, let's jump into this video. The first setting that is very important for us is language, because if you don't understand the game, then we're kinda in a problem. I'm joking, of course, like it doesn't matter that much. There was a bug in Valorant where you are gonna get more FPS if you play on a Russian language. I don't know if that bug is actually fixed, so you can test it, but it really doesn't matter. Like, you were getting like 10-20 more FPS, so it is not that important. Now, second, very important, generale setting, players, actually enemies, highlight color. There's a huge debate here, you know, should I use red, should I use purple, should I use yellow? Listen, the best color is yellow, without any doubts. Like, it gives you the best contrast between enemies and the background, even though red works better on some of the maps. As long as you're not playing on purple, you're fine. 99% of you guys should just go with yellow, and you can maybe change it to red depending what is your crosshair color and which map you're playing. Just don't go with the purple, especially if you're playing Pearl, for God's sake. Before we continue, this video is sponsored by Valorant Tracker TRN, which you can download for free by using my link from the description. This application allows you to analyze yourself and to always understand on which fields you can improve as a solo queue player. And in my private coaching sessions, this is the first thing that I do for my students. But this software is extremely useful to analyze your teammates and enemies as well. During your live games, based on these statistics, already at the start you can see which players are the weakness of yours or enemy team, which can increase your chances of winning if you use this data in the smart way. They also have integrated guides and lineups that can be extremely useful if you're learning new agents or if you simply want to increase your game knowledge while you're actually playing the game. Even though this video is sponsored by Valorant Tracker, I truly believe that this software can give you an advantage in your ranked games and it can help you to improve faster. Now let's move on to the mouse settings. So we're immediately at a very important topic: sensitivity. It is absolutely stupid to change in-game sensitivity on a daily or weekly basis. You don't want to be that inconsistent. Like, consistency in your settings is equally important as your consistency in everything else that you do in Valorant. It is totally fine to use different sensitivities for aim training in order to focus on fixing very specific mechanical problems. So for an example, like higher sensitivities are gonna make you work more on your wrist aim. Like, they're gonna force you more to think about your micro corrections, you know, those fine-tuned flicks and stuff like that. Another thing that doesn't exist in Valorant, I mean in any FPS game to be honest, perfect sensitivity does not exist. Every single sensitivity has some problem, or it will produce some problem for you in the future. The only way to achieve the perfect sensitivity is with a mouse acceleration. But for most players, this is a very stupid solution because you're just adding another problem in your gameplay. Generally speaking, when it comes to mouse acceleration, like, stay away from that. If it was that good, trust me, every pro player in the world would be using it. The only thing that exists is the most comfortable sensitivity for you. And that is why you will see that most pro players in any video game and high Radiant players, they use only one sensitivity number most of the time. You know, one exception is Tens. He changes his sensitivity left and right, but his exception, not the rule. Even on that sensitivity, you might develop some bad habits or problems in a long run, which you will have to fix with some specific aim training routine. I will make a completely separated, like, aim guide and sensitivity guide where I dive a bit deeper into this topic and, explain everything in depth. But this is like a baseline of what you need to know and what you should understand. Now, what is the best range of sensitivities in Valorant? First thing that you need to understand, what is EDPI? EDPI is when you multiply your in-game sensitivity with your mouse DPI. So if your in-game sensitivity is 0125, that is my sensitivity, and you play on 1600 DPI on your mouse, your EDPI is 200. Quick maths. What is the lowest EDPI that I would recommend you for Valorant? The lowest EDPI is 160. Basically, there is absolutely no reason to go below this number. And if you go below this number, that's way too slow. I mean, already 0.2 at 800 DPI is pretty slow. Like, this is sensitivity on which Demon 1 usually played, and I also tested it for a few months. It's not bad. It's really good. Like, it makes you focus more on better crosshair placement, better movement, better engagements, better angle clearing, and, more of the full arm aim. But, in Valorant, where you have a raise, satcheling, jet dashing in, jet updrafting, killing you from the sky, not really the most optimal sensitivity that you can have. Now, what is the highest EDPI that I would recommend you for Valorant? 360. Which is 0.45 in-game at 800 DPI. Even that number is too high, but going above this number is just nonsense. I don't see a reason or a setup in which you would need higher than this number. And the perfect starting point to find the most comfortable sensitivity for yourself is 260 EDPI. So that is 0.325 inside of the game at 800 DPI. What is the perfect method to find the best sensitivity for yourself? So the perfect method is something that I call 20x20. Use 3 different sensitivities for 3 months and track your performance on each of them. Each of these sensitivities should be 20% away from each other. So if you're currently using 260 EDPI, other 2 numbers should be 28 and 312. First month, you're gonna use the lowest number. Second month, the middle number. And the third month, the highest number. And the middle number is basically your current main sensitivity. And after 3 months, based on collected data, you're making a decision on which number you perform the best. Now, if you notice that you perform really, really good on one of these sensitivities, just stick with that sensitivity and that's it. If you notice that you perform better on the lower numbers, but this sensitivity still doesn't feel right, repeat the process. Instead of using 20x20 method, use maybe 5x5. And of course, when you're fine-tuning your sensitivity, you don't need to do it for 3 months. You can do it for 3 days, 3 weeks. It's plenty enough. I'm currently playing on 0.125 at 1600 DPI, and that is the most comfortable sensitivity for myself. Now, when it comes to the scope sensitivity multiplier and ADS multiplier, I highly recommend you to keep them at 1 and to have some consistency there. The only times when you should be changing these 2 numbers to upgrade or downgrade your ADS or scope sensitivity is if you're playing on way too high or way too low main sensitivity. Invert mouse, I have no idea why would you ever play on an inverted mouse. Just keep this off. Raw input buffer should always be on. When it comes to the El Mauso settings, always disable pointer precision. In the pointer options and motion, you can adjust the speed of your mouse based on your current DPI. So if you use a really high DPI, you don't want this to be all the way on 10, because then when you need to ping on the minimap, or you need to place utility with Brimstone smoke pad, that's gonna be pain in the ass. Now, when it comes to some other mouse settings, basically in your software, one thing that I would recommend you is to always use the lowest lift-off distance. Basically, the LOD should be on 1 millimeters. I highly recommend you to use a DPI above 800. People have done enormous amount of testings here and there, 800 and above DPI allows your mouse to have the absolutely best tracking, sensor is working muy bien and stuff like that. And if you have a high polling rate mouse, I highly recommend you to always play on 2000 polling rate. I've tested 50 different mice in the last 3 years. 4000 and 8000 polling rate on most of these mice are just a gimmick. There's no difference at all. But your CPU is getting soaked into the hell of polling rate. You're getting lower FPS, input lag, stuttering, stuff like that. And another problem is like polling rate on some mice works really bad. Minimap settings. Everything is a personal preference, but there are 3 important tips that are actually important for the minimap. First things first, you should be able to see every single part of the map, no matter where you're positioned at that moment of time. So if you're all the way inside of A screens, you should be able to see at least portion of the B main area of the map and the backside right here. You can see the example right above. Tip number 2. If you are a player that struggles with map awareness, or your peripheral vision is really bad, you know, you're holding some angle and you're not able to look at the minimap and react onto the enemies that are on your crosshair. You know, when the enemy, like for example, I'm able to hold this angle, look at the minimap and still kill the guy that peeks me there. So if your map awareness is bad, make this minimap large. Make it big, make it centered, make it fixed. Fix that map awareness, because 50% of times in Valorant, you should be looking at the minimap. Another thing that is kinda important, turn on minimap vision cones. Why? Because you want to see in which direction your teammates are looking at, if their vision is obstructed by some kind of an enemy smoke or some kind of a wall. And when it comes to show map region names, if you struggle with the callouts in Valorant, turn this option on always, because, you know, when you open the minimap to use the smart pings or to ping something for your teammates, you can actually read the name of that location where the enemies, you know, A-Rams, they're pushing A-Rams, help me, why no smoke, oh man, why no smoke? Just remember, you're not stuck because you're bad, your teammates are bad. The first person handedness depends on your dominant eye. If you are left eye dominant, you use the right gun model. If you're the right eye dominant, you use the left gun model. How to check which eye is more dominant for you? Frost! Edit that on the screen, please, like, we don't have time for that now. Now, always show inventory. Turn this option on. It will always show you which guns you picked from the ground, and if you're maybe carrying the spike with yourself. Corpses are better than avatars. Blood is better than stupid sparkles. You don't trust me? Let me show you a few examples. So, this is how the sparkles look in the game when you shoot the enemies that are behind a cover. Our editor Frost at this moment of time is behind this cover right here. This is all of the information that you're getting from this spam. Just 2 stupid sparkles that look like bullet tracers, basically. Like, you know, it's really hard to notice this in some areas of every map in Valorant. This is how the blood looks like. Sparkles, blood. Sparkles, blood. Let's be honest, like, this is mega visible. It splatters a lot. Better visual clarity. Advantage. Competitive advantage. Think about it. Corpses are better than avatars. Avatars on the ground, they obstruct the vision a lot on some positions. Like, for example, here in A short, if I was a bit more backwards, I don't see the enemies that are peeking me from the A main, you know, all the way from the spawn there. But corpses, you know, they kind of lay down on the ground. And also, one benefit of the corpses is direction in which you kill the enemy is direction in which the corpse is gonna fly. So a lot of the times, corpses are just gonna be, you know, inside of the walls. They're gonna be clipping through the walls, clipping through the ground. You're not even gonna see them. You're not even gonna notice them, essentially. These 3 options should always be on. Network buffering. Even if you have the absolutely worst internet connection ever, never use this option ever. Try out this software such as Exit Lag and others. For the past 1 year, I'm using Exit Lag. I'm not sponsored by Exit Lag. I never had a single email with Exit Lag. I never believed in this type of shit before I tried it out. Now, these days, I usually optimize everything on my PC manually, and I'm going to make an in-depth optimization guide in the future. But if you want to improve your ping, reduce packet loss, and automatically optimize your PC for Valorant without too much hustle, I highly recommend you to try out the Exit Lag. Yes, I know that this software might seem like a gimmick, but it actually worked for me. So maybe it's gonna work for you as well. All you need to do is use my download link from the description to get 3 days free trial, and you can test if this software works for you. If it doesn't work, uninstall it. If it works, well, you know, you'll have to pay for it like monthly, but at least you can test it for free, you know, if nothing else. Now, before I showcase you my exit lag settings, this is my in-game Valorant ping without exit lag. On Frankfurt, 43, Paris, 52, London, 54, and I have around like 2-3% packet loss inside of the game. So once you download exit lag, the first thing that you need to do, that you want to do, is like enable exit lag, obviously, you know, press on button, go to connections, find Valorant, you know, optimize game, find Valorant, go into Valorant, then click on the servers right here, click manual choice, and find the Valorant server on which you want to improve your internet connection. Never go for the automatic choice. Find manually your server. So for an example, if I want to play on Frankfurt, I'm gonna find the Frankfurt server with the lowest ping, you know, with the best internet routes for myself. In this case, that is Frankfurt 06. We're gonna click on that, click apply, and that's it. Now, all we need to do is restart the game and check our ping. Okay, now I've restarted the game. Exit lag is enabled. Voila! 30 ping on Frankfurt, 39 on Paris, and 42 on London. This is not really a significant ping difference, but trust me, like, even 10 ping matters in Valorant. Like, it can be a difference whether or not you hit a shot or whether or not you kill the enemies before they kill you. Now, beside the internet optimization, another thing that you can do with exit lag is go to FPS boost and enable the hardware settings optimization. This is basically automatic optimization if you don't wanna, you know, like, dive deep into your PC and look at all of these guides, etc, etc. Like, these options here can give you around 20 to 40 FPS more, depending on your, you know, like, PC setup and overall configuration. Give it a try, you have nothing to lose. And once again, just as a disclaimer, I use exit lag for my internet connection usually, but when it comes to the FPS boost, like, I like to optimize my PC manually, and I'm gonna make an in-depth optimization guide for Valorant in the future. Stay tuned. Now, when it comes to show bullet tracers, I would highly recommend you to keep this option on. It is a personal preference. Some players prefer when this is off, because bullet tracers in Valorant, they do lie a bit. You know, they don't really show you exactly where the bullet is landing, and they can be a bit distracting, but it's a bit easier to control your spray and understand, you know, like, how to shoot with every weapon in Valorant if you have these bullet tracers and if you follow the barrel of your gun. Personally, bullet tracers help me a lot to have a better spray control. Frost is gonna die editing this video. He needs to put all of this that we're gonna talk about in less than 20 minutes. And I pay him the same salary for videos that are 10 minutes and 40 minutes. Now, another very important part of this video, control settings, baby. First of all, you can immediately notice that I don't have any agent profiles. Charlatan, why are you not using any agent profiles? Because I wanna be consistent. When I press that W key, I wanna move forward. When I press my right mouse button, I wanna zoom in. Consistency is very important. And I would highly recommend you to avoid the agent profiles. Your ability number 1 and ultimate ability should always be on the keyboard, where you can easily press it while you're making sure that it is not impacting your movement in a negative way. Ability number 1 in Valorant and ultimate abilities are always some quick cast abilities, or abilities that you pull out and you just, you know, use them later. So these abilities that you don't need to hold in order to use, and abilities that are not movement abilities, they can be on your keyboard. For me, you know, ability number 1 is on Q, and ultimate is on left alt. I don't really recommend you left alt if you like to alt tab a lot. I mean, you can just press the window key anyways, but that is where I use my ultimate and ability number 1. But ability number 2 and ability number 3, especially if you're playing movement agents, Raze, Jet, Neon, should always be on your thumb mouse buttons, like these two buttons, this one and this one right here. That will make sure that your main movement with these 3 fingers is not impacted in a negative way. So I'm gonna show you an example. So let's say you're playing Jet, you are basically, pressing forward, and you want to use your dash ability, and you're strafing during a fight. Let's say the dash ability is on E, for an example. Like, you need to screw up your finger so much to dash towards the right side, it is insane. Or let's say you want to dash towards the left side, and your dash ability is on Q, God forbid. Like, you need to put this ring finger on top of A key and dash ability at the same time for no reason. Why would you do that? Like, you're in a fight, you activate your dash ability on the mouse button, you finish the fight, that's it. Smooth movement, smooth criminal, bro, like Michael Jackson stuff. So just remember one important thing. Movement abilities in Valorant should always be on these 2 buttons on the mouse. Default movement mode should always be on run. Like, you don't want to be Grandma Josephine when you're peeking the angles. If you put this on walk, like, your peaks are gonna be 10 times harder. Like, this is mega hard to perform. It doesn't matter from which video game you're coming. If you're coming from Call of Duty, you will never have smooth, precise movement with this option. I walk on left shift, and I do recommend you use the walking option, and to use the crouching option with your pinky finger. These 3 fingers on the left hand, their main job should be core movement. These 4 keys right here. And occasionally do some quick tasks, get ability 1, get ability 2, reload the weapon, stuff like that. Pinky finger should be used for crouching, on control, left shift walking, opening the minimap on caps lock, and that's it. And finally, when it comes to the jump button, I use 2 options. I use the mouse wheel down for jumping, and I use X. I use X when I'm playing Jet because, because of the glide. You cannot glide with the mouse wheel up and mouse wheel down. So we need the X button. For bunny hopping, for any jumping around, I use the scroll wheel down. Why do I use scroll wheel down instead of the up? Because while you're aiming, while you're in a fight, it is much harder to accidentally press the mouse wheel down instead of the mouse wheel up. Now, when it comes to equipment, I kill the enemies with the left mouse button. I use the ADS and sniper with the right mouse button, and 99% of you guys should be doing that as well. And now, the most important question ever in Valorant that produced so many videos, so many great titles.
Is toggle better than hold in Valorant?
Once and for all, it is a bit of a personal preference, but hold is better than toggle. Hold to crouch, hold to walk, hold to aim down sight, hold to sniper rifle aim is a lot faster, more precise, more fluid when you need to quick scope the enemies. With a toggle, it doesn't feel, it can never feel that good, essentially. And also, what is very, very important, I don't care if you're using toggle or hold, you need to have this option enabled. And put it somewhere on your keyboard where you can hit it with your left hand thumb. For me, it is C. So this option should be somewhere essentially, in this range. Like this, approximately. This option allows you to freely rotate between double zoom, 1x zoom, double zoom, 1x zoom. Why is this important? When you're holding the long range angles, when you're holding the tight angles, you always want to use the double zoom to kill the enemies. But if the enemy jet is dashing in your face, you don't want to try to kill that jet with a double zoom. You want to unscope to 1x zoom to have faster sensitivity, to have more vision range to kill that jet. Also, when you're clearing the angles, Sometimes, with a double scope, a lot of the positions are going to be invisible for you. So you need to quickly switch between 1x scope and double scope, depending which angles are visible or invisible for you. Like while you're clearing this position, you can clear it with a double scope. But as soon as you clear these two positions, you need to go to 1x zoom, because with a double scope, you don't see shit, basically, on the left side. Now, if you're already using toggle, I highly recommend you that operator zoom level should be cycle, auto re-enter scope should be off, and that's it. Auto equip prioritizes should always be most recently equipped. You should control what you get back in your hands. So for example, if you dash forward with the operator, like this, spam the weapon that you want to get in your hands. Simply, you know, if you use abilities, you dictate with 1, 2, 3, and 4 what you want to get. I highly recommend you to never cycle through weapons with your mouse wheel up and mouse wheel down. Just remove these two options completely. Don't auto-equip melee. This box right here, always tick it in. When you're picking up the orb and using abilities or planting the spike, knife is never gonna come back in your hands. Like in the worst case scenario, you're gonna get back your secondary weapon. When it comes to inspect weapon, I use it on T. Now, why did I put my inspect weapon so close to my other buttons? Because inspect weapon is actually really good option in Valorant that can give you an advantage. Because when you're holding some angles in Valorant, the model is gonna obstruct your vision a lot. So let's say for an example, I'm holding vents here and enemies can also peek me from mid. It's a stupid example, but let's say that is the scenario. Instead of holding this angle in this way, I'm gonna be spamming my inspect button. And now I see both of these angles. And I see both of these enemies at the same moment of time. Use object for me is on E, mainly because of PUBG days and Counter-Strike, like I'm just used to that. And use spike, you know, plant or defuse, is on F. This is very important. You always want to separate equip spike from plant or defuse the spike. There should be two different options for this. Let's say for an example, we are on the attacker side. You want to drop the spike to your teammates, but the spike and plant and defuse are on the same button. How do you drop the spike? You need to start planting the spike and then drop it, or you need to press equip the spike, jump, and then drop it. Why? And sometimes, you know, you will be shifting, maybe taking the space, and you need to silently give the spike to your teammates. You know, you don't want the enemies to hear like this big drop on the ground. Equip the spike on 4, drop it to your teammates, plant the spike on F, or defuse the spike on F, and that's it. Two separate, like, stupid problem. When it comes to communication, that is another very important option. Your team voice push to talk key should never be on the fucking mouse. Like, one of the main differences between a great Valorant player and a good or okay Valorant player is how fast you can give information to your teammates. Like, you should be able to speak to your allies as you're fighting the enemies. You don't want to have this type of press to hold action on your mouse, because it's gonna fuck up your aim by a lot. I use the spacebar, like it is the easiest shit ever to hit. Another thing that I would highly recommend you, assign some kind of a button for this option. Team voice clutch mute key. You're last alive, 1 versus 1, 1 versus 2 clutch situation. Your teammates are, you know, a lot of the Turkish words, a lot of the French words coming and different languages. You press the G button. Now you are the top G. You're ready to clutch. Your teammates are not backseating you. You don't hear them. You're focused. You win the round. Unmute your teammates. They're like, yeah, good job, man. Probably not. They're gonna probably leave the game and be toxic anyways, but at least you won that round. Tactical callouts in the chat should always be enabled. This is your secondary minimap in Valorant. Now, in this video, I'm not gonna teach you how to use it as a secondary minimap, but we are gonna cover this topic in some of the future guides. And also one more thing. Yes, I'm using the Wooting ATHE keyboards. Generally speaking, I would highly recommend you to get some high-end Hall effect keyboard or mechanical keyboard. Personally, For the last 4 years, I've only been using VODing, and I'm gonna leave my VODing settings code in the description of this video. Now, another very, favorite topic of every Valorant YouTuber, the best Crosshair Settings! Personal preference, just don't make it too big or too small. You still wanna see it, and make sure that the crosshair is not obstructing your vision. Like, one of the best crosshairs that I've used is this dot crosshair, because it is perfectly small for the headshots on every range. You can hold very tight angles and still see the enemies crossing these angles, and it is quite visible. The only thing I would recommend you when it comes to crosshair is if you have a problem with spray control and you have a problem with your movement, there are a lot of these tools that you can use. You can fade the crosshair with firing error, enable this option, and now the crosshair tells you exactly when the recoil kinda kicks in, like when the firing error kicks in. Another option that you can use if you have a problem with your movement, like you don't know when you're fully accurate while moving, enable the movement error just a bit. Like don't put it all the way to 3. Enable the movement error for like maybe 0.05. Even lower, 0.01. You see? Now your crosshair opens up a bit. When it goes down, bam, you're fully accurate. Another thing I would recommend you when it comes to crosshairs, make sure that you're using a smaller center dot on snipers. Like, you don't want this dot to be too big, where you have no idea where is the enemy's body, head, and stuff like that. I think that 0.6 center dot thickness is perfect, sweet spot. When it comes to the crosshair color, really a personal preference. I prefer cyan because cyan has the best contrast when it comes to the backgrounds, when it comes to the enemy's highlight color, and it works great in combination with a yellow enemy highlight color. One more very important tip, remember that this sniper scope is actually lying to you. Same as you have the dead zone mechanic with regular guns, that same dead zone mechanic exists with snipers as well in Valorant. Basically, with snipers, you're accurate even before this small circle appears in the middle of your crosshair. You really want to practice in range, deathmatch, or during the games, the real timing when you're fully accurate with snipers. Now, the best part of this video settings. How to see the enemies before they see you, how to get the best clarity, the best performance, the best visibility, how to gain an advantage over your enemies. First of all, play every single video game only in the full screen mode. When it comes to resolution, choose your monitor's highest resolution and the highest refresh rate. Actually, refresh rate is more important, choose the highest refresh rate of the monitor. I'm using the latest Asus 2K 480Hz monitor, which is the best gaming monitor I ever used in my effing life. I would recommend you to limit your FPS both inside and outside of the game, especially if you have some low-end PC or, God forbid, laptop. What is a really good habit is to limit your FPS for plus 20 above your monitor's refresh rate, because sometimes these frames are gonna drop and you might get a bit of choppiness here and there. Like, give it some space, essentially. nVidia Reflex low latency should always be on plus boost. Like, it works really good if you have the nVidia graphics cards, of course. Now, El Gráfico settings. These are the best settings that you can have in Valorant at this moment of time. And this will give you the highest advantage in the game. The highest frame rate, the highest clarity, contrast, visibility, everything. Multi-threaded rendering should always be enabled. Very good option. It is kind of self-explanatory right here. Material quality, texture quality, detail quality, UI quality, vignette, VSync, all of this disabled. I'm gonna show you one very simple example why you should listen to me. In this example, detail quality is on medium and high. I don't see any enemies. I'm just holding the post plant. No. There's a killjoy that is crossing into the bomb site. and you just missed that crucial piece of information for your teammates, they think that you're guarding their backs. Detail quality off, detail quality on. Another very important option that you should always disable in Valorant, anti-aliasing. What does this option do? Anti-aliasing smoothens out the edges of the objects and players on higher distances, which is bad for Valorant. We have Frost inside of this corner in a main of Fracture. Anti-aliasing is online. I don't see anything. You don't see the enemy there. Anti-aliasing disabled. Look at that. Tip of the gun. And there's a lot of these examples. Of course, like, you know, an Iron player is not really gonna benefit from this option. Like, you know, your visual perception information is probably not that good. But trust me, once you become a better player in Valorant, you start noticing like every single pixel on the map. Seeing this is so huge for me. Another benefit of this option is that edges of the objects are kinda rough. So when you're holding tight angles, fighting enemies with operator, fighting around the corners is just easier. Like, you notice enemies faster. Another option that is very important in Valorant is anisotropic filtering. Now, anisotropic filtering actually renders the objects and materials in the game to the higher quality. I would recommend you to go to 4x or 8x, depending like what type of PC or laptop do you have. Now, improved clarity and beta experimental sharpening, baby. Like, these two options should always be enabled. I don't care if you have a bad PC, good PC. Turn them on. Much better contrast, much easier to notice the enemies when they're inside of shadows, on long ranges, long distances. Especially what Valorant improved, Riot Games improved the beta experimental sharpening. Previously, this option did nothing. Now it makes the edges of the objects, enemies' outlines, so much better. This is the example where improved clarity is disabled. This is the example where improved clarity is enabled. Do you see the difference? Like how this Sova is more lightened up. Off, on. Off, on. And finally, distortion and cast shadows should be turned off. They're not important in Valorant at all. Bloom, also very important option. Now listen, Bloom makes the skins better. It will make your gun bodies shine more. Your skins are rendered at higher quality. You can flex that radiant icon that you don't have, by the way, because you spend money on skins and not on private coaching, but that's another story. Sad story, really. Bloom will eat PC resources, and it will also add a lot of visual problems. It also affects every single ability in the game. So I highly recommend you keep this option off. This is the Bloom option enabled. Sova's ultimate is mega bright. I don't see shit behind it. When this shit is coming in your face, you don't see anything. You cannot fight the enemies. But if the Bloom is disabled, look at this. It's, bro, like this looks like a comedy show. And it is the exact same frame. Look at this. Same spot of the Sova's ultimate. And it is like a completely different game. Does that Bloom on that Sova ult work on Breach Aftershock as well? Yeah, Breach Aftershock, Breach Ultimate, Brimstone Ultimate. Every ability that has Bloom visual effects that are shining are gonna destroy your visual clarity if you have this option on. And now, personally, my favorite part of the settings guide. Remember, you are not a surgeon. I am a surgeon! If I see one more time, one more coaching session, 25,000 graphs, brother. Enable these stats only if you need to, you know, if something bad is happening. You know, your PC is stuttering, I don't know, you're lagging, you know, you want to track something useful. Then enable it. The only useful option from the stats that you should, you know, enable is shooting error. That's it. To track, you know, like later when you're doing the self-VOD reviews, which is probably never, you can actually see, you know, why you missed the shot. Is your accuracy there? Is the movement properly combined with your right hand, you know? The final settings in Valorant, el audio settings. I personally don't care about the music in the game, so I keep everything off so that I'm not distracted. And I do advise you, you know, to keep these things off so you can hear your teammates loud and clear and during the pre-round, post-round, and stuff like that. These four sliders should always be up. Speaker configuration, please put your speakers on stereo or auto detect if you have some customized audio settings on the PC. One more time, I see the mono speaker configuration. We have the PewDiePie bridge situation here. When the mono is turned on, you don't hear the enemies left and right. You hear them in your face. You don't know if enemies are above, below, left, right behind you. Simulate surround sound. HRTF. Is it a good option? Absolutely. Especially if you have a shit headset or shit IEMs. It will improve your audio direction and it will make you track enemies easier. Like it will make you more aware in the game. You'll be able to distinct where the enemies are shooting you from and where they're coming from. Now, Charlatan, why don't you use it? It sounds like shit. You know, we all perceive the sound in a different way. And I'm the type of guy that really cares about the sound quality. My audio equipment alone is worth like maybe $1,000. And I've tried so many different headphones and headsets. Like on my Discord server, you have the full list of all of the recommended headphones and headsets that I've tried and used. And I would recommend you to turn every single one of these voiceover options on. Especially VoIP Duck's Flavor voiceover. What does this option do when your teammates are talking and Cypher is telling you some stupid joke? Cypher is gonna be muted and muffled a bit, and your teammates are gonna be loud and clear. But that is with a pre-assumption that your ranked teammates in solo queue are gonna even communicate and speak in Valorant. And now, the last part of this video, nVidia and AMD Radeon settings. I would just recommend you, in both nVidia and AMD Radeon, to set your adjust image settings with preview, to use my preference emphasizing, put it on performance, click apply. That's number one thing. Number two thing, in manage 3D settings, you can just copy paste the settings that I'm using here, and these same settings you have in nVidia as well. And the last thing I would actually change on my PC, and what I would recommend you to change, is to adjust your desktop color settings. Valorant colors are extremely boring. It is sometimes very hard to notice the outlines, to notice the abilities. I would highly recommend you, in nVidia control panel, use 70% digital vibrance, which is bare minimum, but also the most optimal. You don't want to put this slider on 100 because your eyes are gonna bleed. Put it on 70%. That is perfect sweet spot for Valorant. Okay, thank you for watching this one. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment if I maybe missed something very, very important. Join my Discord server for private coaching. Also on my Discord server, you can always check my up-to-date settings every month, every day, every year, every week. There's plenty of these guides coming during January and February. Agents tier list, sensitivity guide, crosshair guide, like angle holding guide, 2-3 new aim guides, like just one step at a time, you know? Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.